Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're jumping right into the absolute masterclass on HR administration. We're going to completely break down the often complex world of HR policies, legal frameworks, and regulations, and turn it all into an easy-to-study format. If you've ever wondered how on earth massive global laws, strict ethical standards, and daily work rules all fit together without complete chaos, you are in the exact right place. We're unpacking Section 1.5 of the SHRM Body of Competency and Knowledge Framework to give you a clear, actionable look at how HR keeps an entire organization fully compliant and, honestly, thriving. Okay, let's breeze through our roadmap for today. We've got 6 stops. First, legal systems and HR. Second, key employment law areas. Third, ethics and corporate citizenship. Fourth, policies, procedures, and rules. Fifth, confidentiality and data privacy. And finally, number 6, a quick revision summary to wrap it all up. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, legal systems and HR. Before you even think about writing a company policy, you've got to understand the laws dictating it. 2 concepts are literally the bedrock of fairness here. First, the rule of law. This essentially guarantees that your organization, no matter how massive or powerful, is subject to the exact same laws as everyone else. Nobody is above it, period. And right alongside that is due process. This acts as a protective shield, making sure individuals are safe from arbitrary abuses of power. If you ignore these 2 principles, any disciplinary action you try to take instantly becomes a massive legal liability for the company. Now, your whole approach to HR compliance, well, it completely flips depending on where you actually are in the world. Under civil law, which is actually the most prevalent system globally, judges deductively apply highly specific written codes to a case. It's very by the book. But over in common law countries like the UK or the US, the law is more like a living organism. It constantly evolves over time through actual court decisions and the legal precedents set by judges. And here's where things get really wild. Extraterritoriality law. Say that 5 times fast. Basically, national borders don't automatically end your legal obligations. The U.S., for instance, has laws that actually govern the non-U.S. operations of American organizations. The only real safety valve there is something called the foreign compulsion exception. That only kicks in when your home country's law directly clashes with the local laws of the country you're operating in. It is a massive, delicate balancing act. So all those intense cross-border complexities naturally bring us to jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is simply the actual right and power of a legal body to interpret and apply the law in a specific geographical region. And operating across multiple territories, it opens an organization up to a very specific and honestly dangerous risk. That big risk is called forum shopping. Picture this, you're an organization operating globally. A plaintiff might intentionally decide to skip filing a lawsuit in the place where the event actually happened. Instead, they go shopping around for a jurisdiction that they believe is going to be way more sympathetic to their specific claim. This is huge because it can trigger expanded discovery rules, potentially making totally private corporate communications public. So it is absolutely HR's job to secure airtight employment contracts that clearly define jurisdiction right up front, shutting that strategy down completely. Moving right along to Section 2, key employment law areas. So HR is basically the ultimate shield for organizational compliance, and we protect 4 main pillars here. First, employment laws. These govern the whole life cycle of hiring, contracts, and labor relations. Next, compensation laws, which strictly dictate things like minimum wage, taxation, and overtime. Then we have occupational health, which forces alignment with international safety guidelines from groups like the ILO to guarantee a safe work environment. And finally, anti-discrimination laws. This one is tricky because it requires balancing strict legal mandates regarding harassment and fair work with local cultural norms. That brings us perfectly into Section 3, ethics and corporate citizenship. Think of it this way. The law tells you what you absolutely must do, but ethics tells you what you should do. It's a system of moral principles and values that creates appropriate conduct within the walls of an organization. The SHRM Code of Ethical and Professional Standards, which was actually originally developed way back in 1972, serves as a great reminder here. It tells us that the reputation of the entire HR profession relies entirely on serving our stakeholders in a morally responsible manner. But hey, a code of ethics is basically just a useless piece of paper without real enforcement, right? Here is how a standard reporting process usually flows. It starts with a supervisor discussion, escalates to a written complaint to the department head, triggers a formal meeting within 5 days, and ends with an appeal to HR if the person is dissatisfied. But listen, the absolutely critical element underpinning this entire step-by-step process is a rock-solid guarantee of non-retaliation. Because if your employees don't feel completely safe, they simply aren't going to report unethical behavior. It's that simple. And modern organizations just can't focus solely on revenue anymore. They have to actively engage in corporate social responsibility, or CSR. Have you ever heard of the triple bottom line? It stands for people, planet, and profit. CSR involves everything from corporate philanthropy, like establishing charitable funds and volunteering, to ensuring real long-term environmental sustainability. And HR plays a pivotal, hands-on role here by aligning all these CSR goals with the organization's broader culture and employee engagement strategies. All right, let's get into Section 4, Policies, Procedures, and Rules.
So how do we take all those massive high-level laws and ethical goals and turn them into daily reality? Well, first we need to clearly define the difference between a policy and a procedure. A policy tells you what the organization values. It's a broad framework meant to guide decision-making. But a procedure, that tells you exactly how to execute it. It's the detailed, step-by-step description of how to handle a very specific activity.
And then, stepping it down one more level, we have work rules. These are the absolute, hard and fast non-negotiables of the workplace. Unlike a broad policy that just guides a decision, a work rule dictates a highly specific action that must be taken or avoided entirely. There is zero room for interpretation here. They're usually shaped by immediate safety needs, internal factors, or strict collective bargaining agreements with unions. Let's look at a real-world HR example to see this in action. Take the rule, all warehouse employees must wear steel-toed boots on the floor at all times. Notice the language? It's not a friendly suggestion. It's not a broad guideline about how the company values safety. It is an absolute black and white mandate. HR compiles all of these vital non-negotiables into accessible formats like an employee handbook, just to make sure there are absolutely no misunderstandings. Let's pivot over to Section 5, Confidentiality and Data Privacy. Because HR deals with super sensitive stuff. I mean, everything from personal health records to top secret advanced knowledge of corporate layoffs, airtight data privacy protocols are just mandatory. And the rules change wildly by region. The EU requires explicit employee consent for data transfers. The UK tightly restricts exactly how information is collected, retained, and used. And Australia's Privacy Act explicitly gives citizens the right to know what's actually in their records and to correct them. A data leak in HR isn't just a bad day that results in regulatory fines. It can literally mean devastating identity theft for your employees. All right, let's bring it all home with Section 6, a quick revision summary. Let's rapid-fire review what we just covered to really cement it in. HR is the bridge connecting massive global laws to the day-to-day treatment of real people. Extraterritoriality laws mean your legal obligations can absolutely cross borders. Ethics processes, they must include clear anti-retaliatory reporting steps. CSR is all about balancing the triple bottom line: people, planet, and profit. HR is responsible for translating compliance into everyday policies, procedures, and work rules. And finally, protecting employee data is a strict global mandate. HR is the vital link ensuring the organization operates safely, legally, and ethically. So, here's a massive question to leave you with as you step out of this explainer and back into the real world. As global regulations grow increasingly complex, how will your organization balance strict legal compliance with fostering a truly ethical, self-guided workplace culture? Compliance is mandatory, sure, but a thriving, highly motivated culture requires so much more than just following the rules. It requires deep, authentic, ethical alignment. How are you going to strike that perfect balance? Keep that in mind as you move forward. Thanks so much for joining me today, and keep building those truly great organizations.